Had to grab some water. All right. Let's get to the video. Oh, perfectly 7:30. I did it again. I'm so happy when I'm on time for things. All right. Now, let's see here. How was everybody's day? Quiet, Ryan Reynolds. All right. Okay. So tonight's topic is going to be all about how long should you study subjects in medical coding. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. All right. Because I got a really good question earlier from a viewer who posted that very comment. Concerns about like how long should they study. Where is it? Okay. Hi everybody. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder, and tonight we are talking about how long you should study particular subjects when you are studying medical billing and coding. So let us begin. All right. So this episode was inspired by the following comment. So I'm going to read the comment, and then I'm going to talk about my answer. All right. So she says, "Good morning, Blue. I am in a 12-month online self-paced medical coding program, and I have been studying medical terminology going on 2 months. My online advisor told me that the timeline for learning medical terminology is 2 months. Is this true? I think that I need more than 2 months to study medical terminology, anatomy, and pathophysiology." Okay, so here's the thing. I recommend that when you are going through these programs, right, and you are going through and you're on a schedule with the school, and this is a year-long schooling, so I know this is just perfectly fine, because that means that there's enough time. It's not like a 4-month deal or a 6-month deal or even an 8-month deal. This is a whole year. So 2 months is reasonable to be spending solely based on, medical terminology. That is totally fine. If you feel like you need additional time to study medical terminology, you're going to feel that way, yes. Because in the beginning, it's a lot. And especially if you're coming in from a different kind of industry, or, maybe it's just not something that you've ever really been into, and so you feel like you need more time, it doesn't mean that you can't move forward in your studies, right? It doesn't mean that you can't go ahead and move on to the next module, but still continue to work on your medical terminology. Medical terminology is something that we all must be strong in as medical coders. But a lot of times people are not putting emphasis on medical terminology like they should, because they think, oh, it's just looking up codes, Blue. You have to understand, when you're reading this documentation, it is like reading a different language. It's not the same as just, hey man, I'm just looking at this and yeah, it's this. No, and in fact, you're not even like selecting like diagnoses that are already selected. It is literally looking at it, abstracting the information, and being like, okay, well, this is a symptom of this, and this actually means this. And if they're saying this, then they also mean this. So in order to know that, you have to know your medical terminology. So going with the plan of the 2 months is fine. But as you're going into these next modules, just keep on with the flashcards with your medical terminology. Or if you need to do another workbook for medical terminology as you're going through those different modules, that is completely fine. You're not shackled to just the materials that you are getting from your program. You are able to get additional materials if you feel like you need to supplement your learning. When I learned ICD-10, back when everybody did, before ICD-10 got implemented in 2015, the programs for training actually started a year beforehand, a little over a year beforehand. And so as we're all going through this process of learning, I had the opportunity to have additional training, a whole different ICD-10 training in conjunction at the same time as the training that I was getting from work for ICD-10. And that helped me tremendously because I literally got the best of both worlds. Whatever the program that I was learning from at work, if there was any holes in that training, it was being filled by this other training that I was getting. So I was going through two simultaneous trainings at the same time, but they were completely different and they were set up different. So having that supplement of ICD-10 training, it did wonders for me, and it helped me to truly understand what was happening. And I was ahead of my peers because it was just a matter of I was doing the double study. So that was what helped me, and it can help you too when you are going through your program and you see the materials that they're giving you. Perhaps they're giving you a certain publisher, and I can't say the name of the publisher. There's a publisher out there. There's a author, I guess, that has a book out there that is very popular. Okay, and it is very popular, but I feel like when you use this book, and I can't say the name of the book, guys, I just can't, because it's pretty big. When you use this book, there is that sense that you have to have had some knowledge beforehand, because it's just very like as you already know it. And it's not beginner friendly, I think, when I'm looking at it as somebody who is trying to help somebody that's brand new. It wouldn't make sense to me. And so when I look at those types of books, and then I think there's a lot of programs that use that type of book, and it's just like, if I was learning it, I would immediately start looking for another book that would help me. And there's a ton of them out there, a ton of ICD-10 workbooks out there. I do leave some of those links. They're affiliate links, so you don't have to click on them, but the titles are there so you can look at them for other places that may be a little bit cheaper. So look at those and see if using another book to learn ICD-10 or anything, right, will help you, because sometimes that's exactly what it is. The approach needs to be different. So let's go to the comments. Hi NC, hi Emma, Tammy, Aurora, Shannon, Aileen. Did I say your name right? Hope I said it right. Hi Guy and Elizabeth. Hello. Thank you all for joining me this evening. So going on as we're talking about, studying with even if you're doing independent study or if you're doing a program study, there's going to be a pace that you have to go. And sometimes this pace is going to be a little bit faster than you are wanting it to be. And even if it is self-paced and they're telling you, hey, it needs to be about this amount of time because of the simple fact that they need you to get through those modules, and they need you to be able to have extra time for all these other things. Because with medical terminology, yes, you do need to concentrate on that. But when it comes down to the coding part of it, that's when you're going to need a little bit more time. And so you want to make sure that you're going to allot yourself enough time. So get through what you can get through in that medical terminology chapters, and just supplement your training as you go, because it's going to be a lifelong learning process with these with learning medical terminology. And on my Patreon channel, if you don't know, Patreon's a lot like YouTube. I do a lot of crossword puzzles and word searches and things like that to help with medical terminology. I've tried to make learning medical terminology a little bit more fun, and so that way, it'll be a little bit easier. And it's just a way to kind of like keep yourself engaged. And what's more fun than working on a puzzle? Even sometimes when I go and I make these and I look at the older ones that I've done to see if I can go through those, and I'm thinking, man, this one is hard. But I mean, I still get practice from it anyway. So if you're interested in that, those are available on my Patreon website. So let's see. Hi, Miranda. Hi, Loon. And Desiree. Hello. Elizabeth, Bleu, your channel got mentioned. in FHEMA webinar for mentoring students this evening by Stacey Buck. Oh, how nice. That was so sweet of her. Very cool. So I'm glad. So if you are from this webinar, I really appreciate it. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. But that is so cool. I needed that today. Today was just a very hectic day. And it's one of those days where it's just a perfect storm of a lot of things that are going on. So sometimes you just need those good things to know that you're doing the right thing and you're on the right path. And so yeah, but it's nice. It's nice. The universe will let you know, right? If you're doing the right thing, the universe will let you know for sure. Hi, Maria. All right, so let me take a drink of water here real quick. All right, and for studying. So when you are going through and you feel like you're stuck on something, the best thing that you can do is, if you know you've given it all you've got and you're still struggling with it, put a pin in it and come back to it in a week if you can, right? If you're going through a self-pace and you don't have to hit the modules in a certain order, just do something like that, because sometimes you just need a break in order to come back to it and be like, oh yeah, okay, now this makes more sense. Because sometimes when you get stuck and you just spin and spin and spin, that's like the worst possible thing that you can do, is get in that hamster wheel. Because trust me, I get in the hamster wheel and it's just like, you just think and think and think and like, really, what do I do here? And so what I have found that works best is give yourself a break and go do something else, come back to it, and then focus on it again. If you are the type of person that needs to be in a classroom, there's a lot of people that say, well, Blue, I just can't do self-study and I need to be in a classroom. What do you recommend? Do you recommend going to college? Do you recommend, going to this online school that says that they have, instructors and things like that? I can't really recommend an online school. And I always feel bad for that, because people will tell me, well, it's, $13,000, $14,000 or $15,000. Should I spend this? Guys, I don't know. And I would never want to say, oh yeah, I encourage you, when I don't know the instructors and I don't know if they're going to be teaching you or if they're going to be proctoring from a book. There's a difference between how instructors instruct, right? If they're pushing for critical thinking, then you've got a good instructor on your hands. If they're not, and they're just saying, well, here's the answer in the book and that's how you get it, or look it up or read or something like that, and they're not really caring if you're grasping the subject or not, then that's when you have a problem. But then you've already spent all that money, or you've gotten a student loan to be able to get that. So sometimes it's just a matter of if you're doing enough research about the place or not. But other than that, I have no deals with these schools. I don't know any of them. Sometimes I want to look at them and see, actually go through a program with one of them. But for the most part, it's just that I can't, or I haven't, so it's just really hard to know. And then there's no way to actually know if that's the true treatment that students other than myself would get, right? Because if a school knows, okay, this is Medical Coding with Blue, and she is going to tell her audience about us, and if she's asking us questions, well, we better be engaged because we want the business. So that's hard to do, right? So you need to have like a neutral party to go through and say, okay, well, it was this, this, and this. So that's where it's like, I struggle with that for you guys, But when you're looking at going into these programs and you're spending all this money, if you decide to spend that money, and a lot of times this will happen, people will ask me, well, what do you think? And I'll tell them, I can't, or I'll say, well, have you considered going the independent study route, or have you considered going through the associations online? And they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and go through the program anyway. Okay, then you're asking because, and I don't have anything for those solutions. And, that's the only thing I could think of. Because when you are learning from a book and you're learning on your own, yes, there's more freedom to it, but at the same time, if you are going through and having this freedom, if you're not disciplined enough, you can get off track really quick. And then by the time you know it, oh, it's 6 months later, oh, I stopped studying because, I got bored, or I didn't have anybody to push me. There was no other students, and I need that back and forth. You can find that back and forth, and you can find that student community anywhere. I will caution you though, if you are, joining a Facebook medical coding group, which I've always told y'all not to, only because sometimes when students tend to get together like that, if you're not on the same page as the other students, because some students are in there because they're just lost. Somebody told them to do this, so they're doing it, and they don't really have a desire for it. And if you are the type of person that you're going into it because you really want to, you've done your research, you like the idea, you want to do this, or you've known about it before and you've done your research and you say, okay, this is something for me. If you match up with somebody else that's like, okay, I'm just here because they told me to come here and I don't really care about this, that can really bring your energy down. So this is why I say you have to be very selective about who you listen to. You have to be very selective about what you're surrounding yourself with, because believe it or not, people are not always going to cheer you on. And that is a sad thing, but it is very true. But then at the same time, you may have people who are going to encourage you, who are going to push you. And a lot of times when I say things and I'm giving you guys motivation, I know it's some things that y'all don't want to hear, but you need to hear it, because if you don't hear it, nobody's going to tell you. So that's why a lot of times when I'm telling you guys, I say things because I care. I want you guys to do well, but I want you guys to be aware. There's a lot of things that are going to happen, and there's things that you're going to go through and emotions when you're in the learning part, that if you're not prepared for them, you're going to run. Because so many people have told me, Blue, I did it for 2 weeks. I studied for 2 weeks and I can't do it. And they quit. You just spent all that money, and for what? So that's why I tell you guys, if you're in a self-study or if you're in a school, buckle up and get prepared because you have to be prepared for those emotions. It's a journey. It's not just like, hey man, I'm just here and then I'm going to pass my test. No, you actually have to earn passing your test. So, all right, let's see. So we have a lot of comments that came in. All right. So Elizabeth says, no, you are helping so many people. Thank you. John Daniel, what's Blue? How are you? I finally caught you on live and I suck at studying. Oh no. I'm glad I was able to study at a technical school and had a teacher that was on my all the time. Sometimes that's what people need. Loon says, the medical side or the coding rules? Both, I guess. I don't know what your question is, Loon. Hi, Blue. Can I skip the questions and come back when I take the CCA exam? What? Can I skip the questions and come back when I take? I don't know what you're asking. John says, I was in a classroom that was all self-study, but had an instructor that was there to help. But I was lucky to have a study partner. That's good. Hi, Brenda. And self-paced can be tricky. It can. 357. You really have to be on the ball. Daniel says, interesting is reviewing the E&M encounter of a patient, seeing a doctor, say for E1199, which is diabetic, right? For prescription refills. I love filling in the other correlated information that goes along with it, like the HEDIS info. How is self-paced tricky? It is tricky. John says, it's not interesting is reading the textbook with the case scenarios and writing on a piece of paper. Through study partners those study partners is a different matter, and it makes fun in that case. That's true. Hi, Maria. I always tell people, if you're curious about human biology, pharmacology, and things and kinds of problems that patients go through, It's like you're coding out their lives in a medical sense. I love that. That is so very true. Then you'll like medical coding. Hi, Ito. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Blue. I'm self-studying and it's kicking my butt. Loving it. But you do have that really cool table thing for your wheel. That's pretty awesome. Tatsman says, hey, y'all, I'm working on writing an assignment for a case study as I'm watching this. Oh, okay, cool. Miranda says, I'm self-paced and I have fallen behind due to a new job. Any tips? Let's put a pin in that one. Let me finish reading the comments. Aileen says, I'm in a coding program, just started the CPT codes, looks complicated. It's actually easier than it looks. At least with the CPT codes, they're already built, okay? It's not like ICD-10 PCS, the inpatient procedures, where you have to build those things. That's something completely different. But yeah, it's a lot easier than it looks, trust me. Once you get used to it, it'll get easier. How do you retain all the guidelines? Another one I'm gonna put a pin in, okay? I survived ICD-10-CM. I like that. That needs to go on a shirt. Sorry for the question, I wasn't clear. I meant, for example, I skip a question number 9 and do number 10 and come back if I have time. I don't think they're allowing the flagging. I don't know. You have to contact HAHIIM on that one because they're, I don't know if they changed it or not. Jerry says, no, I said I'm kicking its butt. Oh, good. I'm glad. All right. So back to the question. I'm self-paced and I've fallen behind due to a new job. Any tips? So if you have this new job, Miranda, congratulations, first of all, because of your new job. Second of all, you have breaks while you're at work. So when you have breaks when you're at work, then you can print out the coding guidelines. You can download them from cms.gov, and it's the ICD-10-CM official coding guidelines for 2021, and you can read those on your break times. I know you have to have a break, or you have to have your lunch break and you can eat and look at your guidelines at the same time. You can bring your flashcards with you to work, so whenever you have a break, you can fill in that time with your flashcards and all your medical terminology or anything else that you are, giving yourself a question on, because you still need to be able to maintain that pace when you are working. And I say that if you are working, then if you're working full time, right, then you need to study 20 hours per week. Okay, that's half of the time. Well, Blue, that's a lot of time. Well, you have the weekends, okay, and you have the weekdays in the evening or in the morning, whenever your shift is, okay, after work or before work or whatever. And so you take those 20 hours and you study those 20 hours plus you go to work. It is possible because a lot of us have done it, and a lot of us have had to work multiple jobs when we were in school. I worked multiple jobs in school and I still managed to be able to study. So it has to be a priority that you have to make it, because no one else is going to make this a priority but you. And if you really want to change your life, if you really want to have a different kind of career, I don't know what kind of new job you got, but if it's not something that you want to be doing and you're just sort of doing it for right now because you need the income, that's totally fine. But at the same time, if you ever want to continue to change your life and get on this new path to becoming a medical coder, then you need to make this a priority. People will put a priority on things that they really want to do. People who train for like marathons and stuff, they spend the time to wake up early in the morning so they can go do their run or they can go do their exercise plan. They go home, they take a shower, they get ready for work, they go to work, they get off work, they spend time during the weekdays doing more training or whatever they do in order to prepare for a marathon, right? And so because of this, it takes an incredible amount of discipline, but they get that time in there and they know that it's just temporary. What they're doing is they're building themselves up for this event that they're trying to do. So with that in mind, that's what you have to think of when you are studying and going into school. It's the same thing, because when you study, it is like a muscle, because people are not used to it typically. when you decide to go back to school and you decide to do these things, it's one of those things that you have to really get into, and you have to be dedicated to it. It's just like athletes who have to not only work out and train their bodies, they still have to be able to eat properly and hydrate and do all these things. They can't be giving themselves junk, because then they're not going to feel right when they're out there and they're running or they're lifting weights and things like that. It is the same thing. Don't give yourself junk, which the junk when you are studying is being in these Facebook medical coding groups that are negative, or these other, being on social media, fooling around on Instagram or Twitter or any of those other things. That time is being sucked away when you can actually be studying. Because by the time you know it, if you're flipping on Instagram and you're looking at all these memes and stuff like that, or you're on Facebook and you're looking at all these recipes, right? Hours can go by, and then by the time you know it, it's time for bed, and you have to get up early the next day. Well, did you study? No, because you got so busy looking at Facebook or some other social media platform that stole your time. That's the junk that you shouldn't be doing when you're trying to train yourself to become a medical coder, self-paced on your own. So it's going to take discipline, guys. And if you have to get that discipline and say, I need to write this out on a whiteboard, I need to get this written down so that I can see it, that's what you need to do. I have a couple of whiteboards in my house, and one whiteboard I have with all my goals. I have the goal one for the month, and I have goals for 6 months down the road. And every month I write out these goals, and every month I get to do my check marks. Now, not all of them I get to check off of this list that I have, not all of them, but a vast majority of them do, because I put things on there that are manageable. I put realistic goals on there, and I put things on there that it's going to make me feel really good to see if I can exceed this. And I've been able to exceed some of my goals, and I have my study goals on there. I have time for myself. I do write that I need to spend this much time for myself, because if I don't, it will catch up to me. And a lot of my time is divvied up. And when I divvy up my time, I make sure that I spend time for schooling, because right now I am doing the HC Pro program for the CDI, Clinical Documentation Improvement, or Clinical Documentation Integrity, depending on where you are. But I'm doing that, and that takes a lot of time and focus to study that. So I have to make time for that. I make time for you guys. And doing these lives, at least I know, hey, I got this hour is going to be for my people, because I can't do half an hour shows when I have you guys live, because the interaction is really good. So because the interaction is really good, it's like, okay, we can keep the show, for an hour at least. So you guys know I got you for an hour, so at least that. And then I have my Patreon channel, and so I work on the puzzles, and I work on material for them, and I do the video rationales where I have critical thinking, and critical thinking exercises are like scenarios that I come up with, and they're like, okay, find the E&M level, and find what the diagnosis is and the procedures and things like that, and Hicks picks, and then I do that in a video rationale, like, okay, how did I get this? Or sometimes I will just post the answers with the rationale. Depends on what all is going on. But I try to make time, because, my Patreon supporters are the ones that are supporting me in my continuing education efforts and all of these things. So, that is the reason that I do those things. And then I will say, okay, and then of course I have to have work. my regular job, I work a full-time job. And then I do tutoring, and I do professional coaching, and I do the resume reviews and things like that. So there's a lot of things. And then putting time for myself is key, because that way I can just reset and I unplug, and I do nothing when it comes to anything. And I just only focus on me. And I'll go for a drive, I'll go out of town, I'll do things for me. So that's what keeps me refreshed and going, because when you spend so much time working and you want to make sure that you reset. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your body and your mind. And it's the same thing when you're a student. You have to take care of your body and your mind, because if you are like not feeding yourself well, and you start studying, and then all of a sudden you get heartburn, or you can't sleep because you've had too much caffeine, that's a bad thing, guys. You have to be able to condition your body as well when you're studying. And you have to drink plenty of water. You do have to have snacks, but it's not processed snacks. You need to have fresh snacks, like fresh fruit is good. Fresh vegetables are really good for you. Try to stay away from the candy and all the other junk, because I've been down that road where it's just like, oh, you know, but then you're just like, that needs to be a treat. You know, you have to look at it like that. And so when you do those things, your body will thank you. You know, when you take care of yourself, when you drink plenty of water, when you drink coffee, if you drink coffee and you drink it appropriately, and not, oh, I want a half calf, half decaf, this mocha and all this other stuff. You know, you're not doing all that stuff, right? You're just, you're taking in the caffeine like you should in normal amounts, not a 32-ounce amount. You know, you want to take it in normal serving sizes, because the more caffeine you have, I mean, it'll either make you really sleepy. For some people, it makes them really sleepy. And some people, they just get so wired up that they don't sleep for days. So, you know, it really can affect your sleep. And then in turn, it affects your abilities to be able to study and retain information. So look at those things. It is about the whole picture, guys. It is about everything else. All right, so let's get back to some of these comments. But yes, Miranda, those are my tips. You know, you got to squirrel in that time. How do you retain all the guidelines? So, Deshan, you're going to read the coding guidelines once per week, and you're not going to try to memorize them. What you're going to do is you're going to go over them repetitively once per week. And if you have, you know, so many months that you're going to be in a program, you know, you're going to be able to read those coding guidelines once per week. You're going to recall them a lot quicker. You're not going to try to memorize them, because that's putting too much pressure on your mind and your brain. Being repetitive about what you're reading, you're like, oh yeah, I recall, I saw that. Where did I see it? And you'll be able to go to the guidelines, because you will have access to your books when you're taking the exam, right? So it's not like you have to memorize them, but having a good idea of knowing what is in your book is going to help you when you need to look up that information. So that's my answer on that one. So Elizabeth says they are not currently allowing flagging. Yep, that's true. Emma says they allowed flagging when I took the CCS in November, but I don't know about the CCA currently. So Emma, they stopped it after a certain time last year. And then it was in this year that they really started to discover that they stopped the flagging. So this is something to know. Yeah, it freaked me out. I hope they go back to the flagging. We got this, Maria says. Good thing about coding, if you work for FQHC clinics, that if you use your work clinics for your primary care, it's at no cost to you and the employee. And if they're big enough, that also includes dental care and saves you a lot of money. Nice benefit. Jerry says, as a trucker, finding time is tough, but when you fall in love with something, you find the time, and I have fallen in love with coding. Yay! Elizabeth says, yes, you have to schedule your time. I actually have set alarms on my phone to get through all of my classes and studying for the RHIT exam. John says, or if you need emergency boost of pick-me-up before an exam, an 8-ball has got you covered. You are so silly. You'll be dancing and bopping and bebopping in the exam room. Oh yeah, I'm sure like that'll get plenty of attention. Miranda says, thank you for all the tips. Zach says, how to be strong in billing. So CMS.gov is going to be your friend. So review that website. Review the sites for the big insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield and Aetna and Humana and things like that, and TRICARE, so that way you can know and understand. I mean, you don't have to be certified to be a medical biller, but it doesn't mean that you can't review the insurance company websites and their rules and guidelines. That will help you to understand some of the quirks about them with the billing. Not all places accept the same billers. Not billers. Not all places accept the same insurances. So, that way you can just keep that in mind as well. But yes, again, getting into back to the studies, when you are looking at getting into the coding part and you think, how in the heck am I going to understand this? It's understandable. The thing with reading those big op notes, right, is that it's not as scary as it looks. You don't have to be so into the exact words that they're using. Sometimes they're just talking about, like, how do they administer the anesthesia and things like that. So some of that you can skip over, you can kind of skim through that. But reading the coding guidelines is going to help you to become faster at reading. If you've been doing it every single week of your program, it will make you faster at reading through the op notes. And when you're looking through those op notes, you're going to be looking for those key words, like what was the actual outcome of the procedure. You can't just simply go by what is the post-op diagnosis, the pre-op diagnosis and the post-op diagnosis. You can't simply go by that and say, okay, that's a procedure we're looking for. You need to look at the note and make sure that you actually get what it's saying. And going through those workbooks is going to help you, because then it's going to be like, okay, then you're going to be able to start to understand how did they get to that answer. And if you have to look at a few of those cases at first, right, and to be like, okay, I don't know how they got to this. How did they get to this? So typically they will have the rationale written out. I do recommend the CPC exam prep guide or prep book study guide or whatever, but it's for the CPC. It's for the CPC exam. So when you study that, right, it does have the answers in the back. When it has the answers in the back when you are using the study guide, and it does give you the rationale of how they were able to come up with that code. So that really does help. And again, I've said it on many other videos. If you get stuck, look for a mentor. And I am on LinkedIn, Medical Coding with Bleu on LinkedIn. And I've seen plenty of students come on there and say, I need a mentor. I'm a brand new medical coder and I don't understand this and this. There's a lot of people that just volunteer right away, and they say, "Oh, we'll help you. We'll help you to understand." So if you run across that, that's really great, because maybe they can answer some of your coding questions. If you need to hire a tutor, I'm a strong advocate for hiring a tutor as well. And it's not just to sell, okay, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to sell here, but I am telling you that these are available. There's plenty of tutors on LinkedIn. I'm a tutor myself. My rates are going to be in the description box below when I update the video. But it's sometimes you need it because it is going to be able to answer that question that you have, and being that one-on-one and not being in a classroom with like 40 or 50 or 60 other people all trying to get the instructor's attention. Being able to be in something like that where it's one-on-one, sometimes maybe that will help you, because sometimes that's what you need, because being the only person and you can freely ask questions. There was a video out before where I was talking about, you have to be able to ask questions. And sometimes people don't want to ask questions because they don't want to look like they don't know. But you're going to be in that position of where you don't know, because you're learning. You're still brand new and learning. I have times even today, and I have been a medical coder since 2008, that I ask questions because I don't know and I don't understand. And I will either ask my providers or I'll ask my friend Jessica, who is a medical coder herself, but she is one of the ones that she just knows. She knows a little bit about everything. And I tell her this all the time. You know a little bit about everything. So she laughs and she says, well, she knows how to find the answer. And I have tremendous amount of respect for her because she really knows how to teach as well. So what I have learned in medical coding, a lot of it has been from her. So let's go back to these comments. All right, so John says, it's overwhelming, really, really overwhelming. Only way to overcome is to spend more time with it, and it'll get easier naturally as long as you put in the effort. The critical thinking portion of medical coding is most important because you need to know how to think like a coder, and then things will start to fall in place. That's true. Very true. Elizabeth says, I love reading the operative notes. They are so interesting. Going through the documents is a treasure hunt for what happened. Yep, that's the best way to put it, you know. Maximus the Clone says, if I buy CPT and ICD-10 now to study, will I have to buy the 2022 books to test next year? What certification are you going to sit for? John asks, who makes good coders? People who can tell the fact from fiction, people who make bad coders, people who believe the first thing that they say and assume it will be true without questioning it. Coders have to love learning, says Elizabeth. Yes, very true. And I think we all know the answer to that one, John Daniel. If you can tell a fact from fiction and you can do your research and not being one of those ones that just sees a diagnosis there and okay, yeah, that's it, without doing your investigation. Tisk. Hi, will a 1-year experience in coding be enough to get good at coding? You need 5 years experience to get good at coding. The first year is going to be teaching you all of the things. Second year is going to be like your sophomore year. Your third year is going to be like your junior year. Fourth year is going to be your senior year, where you're still learning. And your fifth year, while you are still learning in your fifth year, you will be more confident and you will actually truly understand what's actually happening. And you'll know the difference between inpatient and outpatient. You know the difference between ICD-10 CM and ICD-10 PCS, and using your CPT manual and things like that. You'll learn and understand all of those things a lot more easier, right? Maximus says, my name is Christy, by the way. Okay, Christy, I'm cloning my dog, Maximus. Aww. John Daniel, have you ever ran into an anti-vaxxer who was a coder? That's a funny question, and I have an answer for that one. Yes, I do. God, that would scare me for some reason. Thank you. I don't feel confident. You're not going to feel confident, not for a while. And there's people who've had years of experience and they still don't feel confident. But you have to keep with it, because we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school, right? Out of the way, we have to be able to understand what they're saying, right? And they've had medical school for 10 years. They took them 10 years to become a doctor, right? And so when you look at that and you think about us, like, if you had a college education, okay, maybe you have 2-3 years college, 4 years of college if you have your degree. Your RHIA, if you have 2 years and you have your RHIT, if you have been through a program, you have at least 9 months, hopefully not 6 months or 4 months. But think about that. We have to get all this information in where they've had all this time to learn this stuff. That's why I say a lot of times we're playing catch up. We're playing like, okay, well, I gotta hurry up and try to learn this stuff. So it does help when you get into one particular specialty, because then you can kind of hone in about that particular specialty. But it's just gonna take some time, the more practice you do, though, that will help you. And of course, I hope you all have signed up for justcoding.com. They have a free subscription on their website, and it does give you access to free coding quizzes. So it's free, and you can take the time with your books to look up these codes so that you can get some free practice out there. So there is resources available. So that is something that you can look into just to give yourself more practice. Okay. And back to Christy, your question, the CPC. So I don't know when you plan on taking your exam, but you should be able to find out because I don't think you'll be able to take your exam this year, right? But if you're taking it later in 2022, then obviously you're going to have to get the books for 2022. And you can always find books cheaper. Optum 360 Coding has books on sale all the time. So you can look into that. You can look into getting cheaper books for 2022. So it's entirely up to you, but you know, I mean, if you have to buy a second set of books, you have to buy a second set of books. I mean, you know, but you can check with AAPC to see, because I don't know how long, if they allow a lag with the 2021 editions. That would be something that you have to take up with them, because I'm with AHIMA. And now, if you ask me about AHIMA, then I know there is a lag. They do allow up until April, I believe, to use the previous year books, but then it's always on the website as well. So, you know, you could check that. So I think it's either end of March or end of April. It may be end of April, I think. But yeah, you have to check. So just be sure to do that. Denise says, what is the best way to handle test questions when you only have a few minutes per question? You're always going to have only a few minutes per question. Is to go with your first instinct. That's my answer on that one. Because it's always when you start debating yourself that you're like, oh, I should have went with that one, and it was actually the correct answer, right? So if you think it's B, go for it. You know, don't sit there and spin your wheels about it. Just go ahead and just go for your first answer. If you know that, you know, you don't have to have a perfect score in order to pass these exams, right? There's a certain amount that you can miss and you can still be able to pass the exam. You don't have to pass the exam with a 100%. Like I said, you have a certain amount that you can miss. If you know that this is a particular question that you have no idea what the answer is, and you haven't studied this, or you're just not really strong in it, and you just know that you're not going to be able to get it, then just pick the best you can. You know, just pick out whatever you think sounds the closest. Look at the answers. If you are taking a AAPC exam, of course, you guys know that is completely 100% multiple choice. You got to look at the answers that you have, and you got to make the best possible decision that you can. So be sure to look at the codes and just get through it. Don't get hung up on one particular question, because if you only have a minute and a half or 2 minutes per question, then there's going to be questions you're going to be able to get through quickly, because you'll know the answer right away. So it's not going to be that you only have a few minutes for every single question. If you need a little bit of time for another question, then you know you're going to be okay with that. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you are getting through expediently and that you are not being hung up on something and second guessing yourself. Because it's really sad when people say, well, I didn't have enough time to finish the exam because I kept spinning my wheels. You don't have to get 100% of the questions correct. Think about that. You just have to have enough just to pass, okay? And you'll be able to learn more once you get in the real world, yes. But these tests are testing you on your competency to be able to get into the real world. That's what these tests are saying, that you're competent enough and you have enough knowledge to get you into the field. The rest is up to you. It's not up to your employer to train you. It's not up to the school to keep teaching you. It is up to you. There's a lot of put yourself into this that's in this industry, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. And there's some people that really want to be handheld through this time. And I get it, because it is scary, you know, like how do I get through this? How do I get through this? There's tons of support out there, guys. I mean, like I said, you know, asking for a mentor on LinkedIn is the first step. But again, being careful and making sure that this person is a good personality match for you um, is a great thing. You know, I've had people before ask me if I would mentor them. And I tell them all the time, you know, I'm happy to do so. However, you know that I run 2 channels and I have a full-time job. So I may not always have the most quickest time, but I do try to get to everybody's question. I get emails all the time, every day. Not just from Patreon, I get them from, you know, just regular email too. And I get comments and everything too. And I try to make time for everybody. But I always encourage people to watch my videos, look through the videos. If you're looking for study tips, I get study tip questions a lot. What are your study tips, Blue? I got plenty all over my channel about study tips and medical terminology. You know, I had that one video that went viral, you know, which I was very glad about. And I still get comments on it today. They're like, it makes so much sense now. Well, I tried to break it down as easy as I can, you know, but when you look at those things, then, you know, that's what you have to do, you know. So let's get back into this. Oh my gosh. I tell y'all guys, it's a hotline bling tonight. All right. So let's see here. Woo, okay. So that was my answer on that one, Denise. Guy says, and your 6th year through your 28th year, you'll still be learning. Very true. Elizabeth and Elizabeth. Emma says, I love the coding quizzes. They are awesome. And John says, when I took my CPC exam, I did what someone said to do, is start at the back of the test and move forward. Oh, wow. That messed me up. 3.5 hours passed and 25 questions answered. Oh my goodness. I said, screw it. Thanks for the advice. John says, started from front to back, read the question and trusted the first answer I saw and chose it and was able to finish the 125 other questions within an hour or so that was left over. Wow. Kind of thought I failed, but applied for a job a week after the exam that my teacher was able to hook me up with, not knowing I passed, basically. Oh, but the day I had to go show proof to HR of the credential was the day that I finally got the passing result. That was scary. Well, that's awesome anyway that you passed. They also go on sale in April. John says, I got 94% the first time go, and apparently passing the CPC in the first try is a hard thing. That's a pretty good score, 94%. Elizabeth says, always check the best deals section on the Optum360 website. Yes, that's very true. They always have the deals. Denise says, thanks. I love your lives. They are so informative. Oh, yay. Well, you're so welcome. Shanita says, hello. Do you think 4 hours is long enough for to take the CCSP examination? Yes, it is. I didn't take 4 hours to finish my exam. I actually finished in less time because I just took it back in March. So. Aileen says, thank you, Blue. I see you for the next live chat. Bye. Max says, Christy, I enjoy your tip about the number of the vertebrae. 7 a.m. for breakfast, cervical, 12 for lunch, and 5 for supper. Yep. Yes, you got that one. Are your questions and puzzles hard on your other channel? I try to make them easy, and I try to make them hard. So I try to make a good mix because I want you guys to think. And a lot of times what I do is I sneak on the details. And if you are not looking at the details, you're going to miss it. And I've been told that so many times. I get the grrr, Blue. How did you do that? Why did you do that? You tricked me. I wasn't trying to trick you. I'm trying to get you to look at how, like, this is what happens. When you're in the real world, you're going to be looking for those details because sometimes the details have snuck past me. And then when I get hit on an audit with it, and I'm like, argh! And of course, my boss is very excited. She's like, ooh. And she goes, look, I got this one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, let's calm down. Just calm down, ma'am. And then sometimes it's the other way. I'd be like, no, It says right here. And it says right here. And she's like, darn it, you know. So when that happens, you know, it trains you to get sharper, to look at the details. And that's what you want. You want to get into the details, because it's the details that matter, guys. It's the details that are going to help you. It's the details that are going to help your clinics. It is the details that are ultimately going to save your clinics. And that's what happens. You know, I talk about it all the time. I was called in to rescue a clinic that was literally drowning. And they were like, okay, something's not right here. We're looking at all these cases and you know, what is happening. Well, the detail and the code selections that the providers were doing, and it's just like, okay, no, hold on. So we need to talk about this. So there was a lot of education that went back and forth, and the clinic started performing like they were supposed to, because, you know, everything started to be there, and there was the correct codes that were selected, you know, the first go round. And so, you know, being able to rescue clinics and putting them where they should be, because looking at the documentation, you'll be able to know. And if the coders that were there before are looking at this, and if they're not as trained, or if they're not trying, or if they're just sort of like going with the flow, and the provider says that they did this, and in actuality, when you're looking at it, you're like, well, no, well, hold on a second, you know, and you're reading what they wrote, and it's just like, no, actually, it's, you know, we need to look at this other procedure code. Oh, I didn't know about that one. Well, so it's that detail, and it's looking at those details and asking those questions. That is what is going to make all the difference in the world, guys. And so when I train the people that I have on Patreon, and I try to show them the way, and I always hope that it's helpful for them, because even if it's just one little detail that helps them to be a little bit more sharper than their counterparts, that's what I want. Because to me, when you spend time doing these exercises on your own, and you spend time away outside of work, and you're actually continuing to study so that you can be better for work, that is amazing. That is actually what is developing you into a high caliber medical coder. And that's what I love. Because when people like me, when us geeks get together, right? I love the word geek, right? But when us geeks get together, and we can say, oh yeah, we start having these conversations, and then you're just like, ooh. And that's what it's all about for me. You know, when I get into conversations with people, and when one of my Patreon subscribers, Brian, I love talking with him, because when we start talking about the coding parts and questions and things like that, and we start bouncing ideas back and forth, I'm like, wow, you know, his knowledge base is so extensive as it is. And it's just like, I find him so fascinating to speak with, because it's just like, wow, he's amazing, you know? And so that's the thing, when you do that, when you start hanging out with people, and then you actually start talking coder, and the people who actually get it, it's amazing, and it's fun. I don't know, I like it. All right, so Shanita says, thanks, you're welcome. John Daniel, only way I could pass those puzzles of yours is on a work day, and about an hour or so after work started and my brain is in mode, then I'll be able to hammer it out. My brain just switches off after work, and surprisingly, I get stupid tired. That is very true, because that does happen. Even though you're working and you have a mental job, right? Like, because you're using brain power, right? And then you get home and you feel like you've been running all day and you're exhausted, and then you just kind of sit on the couch and you're just like, what did I do? Why am I so tired? It's because you've been reading all day long, using that brain power. After an 8-hour day of coding, you feel like you read and think so much, or you used your brain and you felt fried. Yeah, yep. That's very true. I do that all the time. Jerry says, I have plans on joining your other channel. I just haven't got to. Take your time. It's fine. It's fine. It's not going anywhere. Brenda says, I love medical coding and always learning something new and different every day, each and every day. Yep. John says, reminded me of pre-calc and having math props that take up the whole page. And I totally can't do that now, but I did when I was younger. It makes me apprehensive to go back to college. Hey Blue, what's your end goal? You want to start a business or something? My end goal is to become a cancer registrar or be a coder that works with medical trials studying new drugs. The end goal, right? The end goal. Well, one of them, because I have a few goals, right? But one of the goals is to be able to teach, like teach, like at a school, that I would love. I would love to be able to produce high caliber coders. Like if they say, oh, well, I attended Blue School. Oh, we know that you're a high caliber coder. Okay, you're in. That I would love because I love teaching and I like to develop other coders into what has made me successful in my position, because I have my clinics are the two highest producing clinics in the hospital, ortho and podiatry. Nobody can touch me when it comes to that. And they're mine, and I take care of them, and they have very detailed documentation, and they have very good codes. So that is what I love. And to be able to produce more people that are like me and that actually get it and communicate with their providers, know how to communicate with their providers, and know the rules and understand the rules, and they're able to teach and mentor other people, that's what I want. That's what I would love more than anything, right? So that's one of them. And then the other one is, of course, to speak at AHIMA, one of AHIMA's conferences or conventions. And that is another goal. I'll get there. I will get there. I will love that. I will freak out the day that I will be able to do that. But I will get there, and I will be able to do that. And that is what ultimately my goal is. And to just be up there on that stage with AHIMA, right? And be like, oh, and from Medical Coding with Bleu Garcia, That is my other goal. So that's some of the things, but two of the biggest ones that I would love. And, the other ones I'll just keep for the moment, but those two I'll share with you guys. But yeah, that's what it is. Let's see. But I like that though, the fact that you want to work with medical trials. That's really good because, working, like when I worked at the Cancer Therapy Research Center, when I worked there, you get to see like how these things they go, right? And these are for new medicines, new technologies, new protocols. And so you get to see like the whole process of how it affects the patients, and if it affects them positively, or if they have this kind of side effect or whatever. And it's very fascinating. It's very rewarding work. And then you have to think about the people that are actually in those trials. And it's amazing. It's incredible. And it's incredible that they are so giving of themselves for other people. What's your other channel? I want to follow it. Oh, I'm talking about Patreon. My Patreon channel. The link for my Patreon channel is in the description box below, but it's a supporter driven channel. And so you pay to support the creator, which is me. And the pledges begin at $5 right now. And you get access to tons of puzzles and critical thinking exercises with me. And then, of course, I talk about myself personally. A lot of things that I don't share here on YouTube, I do share on my Patreon channel. So, yeah. John says, for the end goal ties into financial growth, and two careers pay really well. Yes, they do. I want to go to your school. Sign me up. Aww. And you would be great when and where. Oh, thank you guys. You will be amazing teacher, Blue. You bring fun to coding while never sugarcoating the truth. Right? That's me. Yes, teachers, well-respected teachers can be very rewarding, and you'll essentially be responsible for educating people. And that goes to work in hospitals and clinics, and it's a big responsibility. If you get on the AAPC stage, are you going to open up the speech with hello? My name is Blue. I'm a medical coder, okay? And clap your hands. That is my trademark, okay? You're not the first person person to bring that up about the clapping. When I did the interview with Brian Quee, who's the medical coding geek, he was like, "Oh," he goes, "Tell me about the clap," because I did the I did the podcast with him on his show, and he's like, "You got to tell me about the clap," because he hadn't done his YouTube channel yet, right? And so he was talking about, he goes, "You got to explain the clap," and I go, "Well," I said, I was watching Think Media, and they're a channel. And thank you, Maria, for joining. I was watching Think Media, right? And Think Media was saying that, you know, when you are talking on video, you have to, your energy level has to go up a little bit, because if you're talking like normal and it doesn't seem like you're very engaged and that kind of thing, you have to kind of punch up your energy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they go, when you do things and you create movement and you make sounds and things like that, that's what gets people's attention. And I'm like, what can I do? And then I said, okay. I said, well, you know what? It's time to start. It's Medical Coding with Blue. And I'm like, oh. And so when I started to, because I was pre-filming before, right? Before I was doing the lives, I was pre-filming a lot. And so I was like, okay, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. And I was like, oh. And so people were saying, they started commenting, you know, when you did that clap, I sat up. So I said, okay, well, it works then. But that's where the clap came in. So Maria says, "You'd be a great teacher. You inspire me to continue medical coding." Oh, thank you. John, I would love that. If I don't hear it in the videos, I know something is off. And I'm thinking maybe I should PM Blue on LinkedIn and make sure she's fine, because I didn't hear the clap. I wonder if she's well. Well, yes. So that's how you could tell. If something is like, you know, "Are you okay, Blue?" "Uh-huh, I'm okay." "Well, why aren't you clapping?" Yeah, it's funny, because when you get to be a certain way and, you know, you all of a sudden change. A few years ago when I got, I'm going to close this up in here in a minute, but to give you guys one more story. A few years ago when I was diagnosed with asthma, right? I would go into my doctor's office every year for my well checkup, right? And of course, I'm always nicely dressed because I'm coming out of work. And so I'm always going in nice dress, you know, whatever. And when I started to develop asthma, I had gotten bronchitis and everything like that. So I showed up to the doctor one day, and because I was like, I don't know what's going on, you know, I can't get control of my asthma, and I kept coughing, and I had to go to the emergency room, and it was this big mess. And so I went to my doctor, and I was in sweatpants. I had no makeup. My hair was down. I was like in a sweatshirt, and I was just there. And she goes, "I know you feel sick." And I said, "You, like, hello?" And then she goes, no. "You know how I know that you're not feeling well?" I said, "How?" And she goes, "You're not dressed up. You don't have makeup. You're in sweats." She goes, "I've never seen you in sweats. I didn't even think you owned sweats." And I was like, "Normally I wouldn't, but I don't feel good." And she goes, "That's how I know." And so then the next visit, you know, a couple of visits later, you know, I was back to wearing my dresses and everything like that. And she's like, "I see you're feeling better." And I said, "Yes, I am feeling better." She goes, "Because that was completely different." So when you deviate and people are used to you, oh yeah. Josie says, "The clap gets my attention." That's cool. Boom, got it. Yep. I think of medical coding in my sleep. Me too. I think I do. I love the clap. No pun. LOL. Jerry. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and close this up. But y'all have a great night. I will see y'all on the next video. Please like, subscribe, share, and I will see y'all again tomorrow. Bye.